commercial properties. They are experts in everything like remodeling, new additions, hot tub installation, and more. And they take jobs from Beatrice to Omaha and all towns, big or small, in between. Call them today at 402-466-6606 or learn more at high-electric.com.
It's time to go one-on-one with DP. Coming at you live from the Koppel Chevrolet GMC studios. Here is your host, Derek Pearson. Presented by Beatrice Bakery on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Oh, I wish we could share all the stories that we talk about on there, but we can't. 402-464-5685, Starter Haven text line, Honda Lincoln hotline if you want to jump in the conversation. I know Chris Raff is already ready to chime in. As a matter of fact, Chris, you could probably call in. We'll do this.
Really want to.
The live video stream is up, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and now live on Twitter.
On the Twitters.
On the Twitter. I'm constantly in search of more information about the programs here. And then you go back in history and I try to kind of remember different segments of Nebraska history from the outsider perspective. Like, so no matter where I was in the country, at some level, I was following Nebraska athletics. And because of that, you remember them in a certain way. You remember them how you remember them, not how they always were. So last night, they again, Big Ten Network, and they went back through 1997, 1996, and 1997, and what it was like in the program, what it was like being around the programs, and I couldn't remember because they started talking about, well, Scott didn't choose Nebraska. He chose Stanford. Mm-hmm. And so while he was at Stanford playing, offense and defense, he then decided that wasn't the place for him. So he wanted to come back to Nebraska and play for the Huskers. And immediately my first question was, well, who was the quarterback in the year that Scott Frost was on the practice team? Who was Nebraska's starting quarterback?
The year that he was on wasn't it Tommy Frazier?
So Scott
came back
mm-hmm.
in 95.
95?
No, 96.
96?
Was not Tommy
Chris?
Frazier.
Is that Raph? Thank you, Mark.
Tommy was done after 95.
Thank you. So I want to go through the history of this thing, and it's really good. I was going to actually call Steve Taylor and Aaron Davis, but Chris Raff is called in. He's on the Honda Lincoln hotline. Let's bring Raff in. Raff, how you doing this morning, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So when we started talking about quarterback history, and Raff goes, this is right down my lane. This is my jam. So let's bring you in and have you have the conversation with us, because I was trying to line up all of Nebraska quarterbacks as far back as we could. And so I said, in fairness, I remember Nebraska when I was in college. So I got to college in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that.
Right. So
I am not.
Walk us through, because what I remembered was Jeff Quinn.
Yep, you're correct. 1980.
Right. That Quinn and what he did. How would you give me a quick breakdown, scouting report on Jeff Quinn?
Well, the scouting report I really don't have, but I have an awesome Jeff Quinn story.
I'm all for it. Give it to me.
So Jeff Quinn's parents moved into the neighborhood where I grew up. Well, when Jeff left Nebraska, he backed up Terry Bradshaw for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one summer, the word started getting around the neighborhood. Terry Bradshaw and Jeff Quinn have been great friends since he went to Pittsburgh. So Terry Bradshaw came to our childhood neighborhood one summer. So that was like the huge thing. So we got to actually see Terry Bradshaw. And that was, I think 1981, 82, I believe. So that was pretty cool. Jeff Quinn, he's a decent quarterback, decent mobility.
Took him to a bowl game.
Yep.
And
So
then I remember, and the only reason I remembered it was because there was a young lady I went to school with who was cousins with this guy, and Mark Maurer.
correct.
And I thought I understood who it was, and I paid attention to it. He started the season. I don't remember how the rest of the season went for them in 1981.
There was a bowl game. It was, oh gosh, I'm trying to think if Mark Maurer and Nate Mason, if they sort of flip flop back and forth.
Yeah.
I know that Nate Mason was right in there. So, and that was just leading up to one of the greatest ones of all time, in my opinion.
Well, let's go into it.
Is Turner Gill early or late 80s?
Nope, Turner Gill is right there.
Okay.
So you got Turner Gill stepped into the starting role in 82. And then he had I believe it was a leg injury so then Nate Mason actually had stepped into that role at the end of the year. And so then it was Turner and Nate Mason in 82.
So the 80 team went, and again, this is framing current condition circumstances to what it was back then, even pre Coach Osborne winning titles, that this team went to the Sun Bowl. They finished 10-2, 6-1 in the Big Eight. Then the 81 team finished 9-3 under Coach Osborne. They were still running the 5-2 defense. This is the team that lost 22-15 to Clemson in the Orange Bowl. And then 82 with Turner Gill, they go 12-1, finish number 3.
Yeah, I believe they played LSU that year. The crazy thing about that Clemson game in 81 was everything fell into place that day for Nebraska to actually win the national championship that night in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
It was crazy that it went into that game like 6 or 7, and they needed like 3 teams to lose, and it all fell into place that night. But I believe it was Homer Jordan, the quarterback for Clemson, and they got their title that night. I think it was Coach Ford. That was
Danny Ford. It was Danny
Yep.
Ford. I'd seen that Clemson team 3 times that year because I was still hanging around the ACC, and yeah, Clemson was impressive. They were impressive, and it was scary. We're talking to Chris Raff, and again, through a lot of the stuff that's in play, right? That the program can be identified through Coach Osborne and these quarterbacks. Right? The progression, the natural progression of greatness. You could also do this with running backs, which is the thing I'd probably like to do tomorrow, is to go all the way back and go through the running backs through the course of this thing. But 82, they go to Orange Bowl and they beat LSU 20. You're right, they beat LSU 21-20. Go 12-1. They're undefeated for the first time. They're undefeated in Big Ten, in the Big Eight, and that's a big deal. Because now, with the triplets in play, there's an opportunity.
Sorry to interrupt. That 82 season was another year they probably should have won the national championship.
Right.
That was the year at Penn State where the guy clearly caught the ball out of bounds, and so that cost Nebraska undefeated season and probably a shot at the national championship that year. And they were loaded that year. They had Roger Craig and Mike Rozier in the backfield. So that was quite the combination.
Well then.
Ton of awards in that thing. Yeah, the loss to Penn State, the 27-24 loss to Penn State, down in that was over in at University Park. This is when it was Beaver Stadium, University Park. And then they go on a roll. They go down to Jordan Hare and they beat Auburn pretty soundly. 41-7. They go to Colorado and load up on them. The scoring explosion continues versus Kansas State. They have the face-to-face battle of Missouri with Missouri here at Memorial. They blow out Kansas. They blow out Oklahoma State. They blow out Iowa State. And then they get to Oklahoma and they beat Oklahoma in a brawl here at Memorial Stadium 28-24. So, man, Remember the days where you're actually talking about 12-win seasons as they were. 1983, Raph, what do you remember before the debacle finished?
Oh, what do I remember? 83. 83, I remember it was almost a foregone conclusion that Mike Rozier was going to win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
I remember everybody knew it. I still remember, God, I would have been a really young kid. And I still remember me and my dad were like, we got to go down to Stacy's locker room, pick up a football. We're going to autograph day, and we got to get a Mike Rozier autograph because he's winning the Heisman Trophy. And he did not let down that year, let me tell you.
What was that like? I mean, listen, the Jet had already won the Heisman, but that sort of year for Rozier, what was that like to follow this team and the explosion?
It was crazy. I remember where it really kind of hit its peak was there was Time magazine, and in the top right corner there was a picture. It was after the Syracuse game, and there was a little slice of Mike Rozier on the top right corner of Time magazine, and that's where they pretty much coined Nebraska the greatest team of all time. So that was just a insane year. That offense was so crazy. They were the scoring explosion.
Yeah.
I think they had one game against Colorado. They racked up, I think it was 42 points in the third quarter. It was nuts.
So here's what they scored. They scored 44 against Penn State, number 4 Penn State in the season opener, which opened the door and let everybody know, okay, this is going to be different. They got 56 against Wyoming. They got 84 against Minnesota. They got 42 against UCLA. They got 63 against Syracuse. They had a week off, and they played poorly offensively against Oklahoma State. They only had 14 points. They bounced back 34 against Missouri, 69 against Colorado, 51 against Kansas State, 72 versus Iowa State, 67 versus Kansas. Oh, and then they put the 28-21 win over Oklahoma down in Norman before they went down to the Orange Bowl. Would it be would it be fair to say that if the 2-point conversion happens, that this team is talked about as the greatest team ever?
Yep, definitely. They would be right up there. It would, and I think that was like, we always talk about it, like me and AD, I know there's some players off that team that are like, man, I wish we would have kicked that extra point and at least got the ring and stuff like that. But that night, I felt like they were playing Miami, but they were also playing against history. That if they make that 2-point conversion, they're known as the greatest team of all time.
We don't talk about that defensive unit. That defensive unit held Penn State to 6 points. They held UCLA to 10 points. They held Syracuse to 7. They held Oklahoma State to 10. They held Missouri to 13. They held Colorado. They got 19, but it wasn't a big deal because they were just getting it done. If you don't give up 31 points against Miami, again, this team is one play from being legitimately considered the greatest college football team ever. That's amazing.
Yep. And then it's funny too, the Minnesota game, they went up. Lou Holtz was the coach for Minnesota, and they back in their travel squad, I think that you could only take, was it like 60 some players or whatever on their travel squad. So what happened was coach pulled out the starters and put in his backups. Well, the backups got tired. So you'll notice in that Minnesota game, Turner Gill and Mike Rozier and Irving Fire are back in the game in the third and fourth quarters because his backups got too tired of scoring points. So that was always an interesting thing about that game was like, why was Turner Gill and Mike Rozier still playing it late in the game? Well, what happened was the backups got tired, so he had to put in his starters back in.
Can you imagine the numbers Rozier has if he plays legitimate?
You know how good your team has to be for your backups to get tired?
Not used to performing. Not used to being out there.
Because that means your backups are in for such a long time that they are getting tired. Like, that's just crazy to me.
And you look at Mike Rozier's statistics for that year. I think he averaged like 7.8 yards a carry or something crazy like that. And in my opinion, Barry Sanders, the greatest college running back of all time. That's the best I have seen. Mm-hmm. But if you would have played Mike Rozier, because you got to realize Mike was only playing halves. He probably played that entire season. He probably played maybe 3 full games.
Yeah.
The rest of the year, he was out by halftime. Like that Kansas game, his senior day in Lincoln, I think he had 296 yards rushing, and I don't think he even played the fourth quarter.
He tells the story that he had to, in his mind, he prorated his numbers because that's the only way out of fairness that he can measure up. We also talked, and again, great historians are all over Lincoln. And when you start talking about that era of quarterback play, that era of football, but the great question is to ask people right after Turner Gill, who was the starting quarterback for the Huskers? Who was the next starting quarterback for the Huskers?
You want the answer?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Craig Sundberg.
Right. And in a year where you've come off of the explosion, right?
Yep.
Was the expectation too great? Was the moment too great? What was it? Again, and full disclaimer, that following team, so 1984? Was it 84, 85 that he takes over?
84.
84. That the 84 team goes 10-2, right?
Yeah, and what was crazy about that year was they started out rolling. Like I remember Jeff Smith was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and it was pretty much business as usual coming out of the gates that year. The one thing I'll say about the 84 team was I think the offense probably took a step back, but the defense took a step up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you would have took that 84 defense probably and put it with that 83 defense was good, but they were a year. It was a year early. So if you would have had that 84 defense, the 83, then hands down, I don't think that there's any question. There probably wouldn't have been a 2-point conversion in Miami. I think it would have been over quickly. But
Raph, and again, perspective that coming off the offensive explosion, and then the expectation of what this team is going to do offensively versus the reality. And the reality is they scored 42 points, 38 points, 42 points, 17 points, 33, 24, 62, 44, 41. And they were disappointed to do so. Right? And I think the Syracuse game change is where Nebraska football changes because it gets kicked in the shins and has to adjust because it's the 17-9 loss on the road, pretty disappointing no matter who you were playing against. And this team still had opportunity to get it right if they could finish against Oklahoma here at Memorial. They lose at 17-7.
Yep.
And
crazy game that the Syracuse game, the crazy thing about that, the story they'll always tell about that game is Tom Rathman, fullback, San Francisco 49ers. The first kickoff of that game, a guy from Syracuse came down and knocked him pretty like concussion wise. And that was when they were like, the Nebraska players are sort of like, yeah, we're in for a game today. So,
mm-hmm. Well, that's the rule. So you go after the biggest and the baddest, and you punch them in the jaw and see what happens. Well, that's what happens. And the season, and again, perspective. The season ends with a pretty dominant win over LSU in the Sugar Bowl.
That was 30-15.
28-10.
28-10. Okay.
Right, and so again, they finish 10-2 in 1984, and then 1985 comes along. And Raph, do you remember who takes over there?
I'm going to go with Travis Turner.
You are correct. Started the season opener, but then McCathorn Clayton takes over.
Yep. Pretty
quickly. Now, what kind of season do you think you're having where your quarterback is replaced in the opening game? What kind of season do you expect to have? They lose to Florida State, number 17 Florida State, at home, 17-13. Things could go remarkably wrong. except the following week. Face number 20, Illinois. They put up 52 points. They blow out Oregon 63-0. You beat up on New Mexico. You beat number 5 Oklahoma State. That's a good one, right? That's a loaded game. Do you recall that one at all? That Oklahoma State game?
Oklahoma State.
They win at 34.
They win at 34. I think it was. I want to say Rusty Hilger. Rusty Hilger,
yeah. Was it Rusty or Dusty? It was Rusty.
Rusty.
It was Rusty.
Yep. What was the score of that game?
34-24. They win it down in Stillwater.
Yeah.
Which I thought was big because Missouri was next, and they were going to have to go on the road to Missouri, and it seemed like a game that Missouri was going to find a way to beat Nebraska, except for the Huskers figure out a way to win. And then they come home and face Colorado. They knock off a tough Colorado team, 17-7. They thump Kansas State. They blow out Iowa State. Of course, they rout Kansas. And then once again, the season comes down to Oklahoma, Thanksgiving Day-ish, and not the best performance, a 27-7 loss to Oklahoma.
Yep. I believe that was the 27. Yep. I think that was the Keith Jackson end around, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
He went 88 yards, I think, on a tight end reverse. So.
But this is why, like, for the moments of it, right? And then they go to the, I forget which bowl, the Fiesta Bowl. And I believe it was one of the very first Fiesta Bowls, maybe, where they go and they take on number 5 Michigan, and they lose 27-23. But this team finishes 9-3 with quarterback changes and other. And I think you can identify quarterback play with a lot of the records that we're talking about.
Yep.
Raph,
that was 80. That was 85.
That was 85. That was 85. So,
and I believe I could be wrong on that 27-23 game, but I'm pretty sure there was a freshman quarterback that was wearing number 11 that day that actually came into the Fiesta Bowl and played.
Set the table.
And can you name that number 11?
Set the table. Wore a different number. We know him as a different number. we know him as a different number. Tailor-made is what we would.
That's who we're talking about.
That's who we would identify with. Do we, Raph? Let me ask you. Again, I think of it. Remember, I've looked at Nebraska athletics from 10,000 square feet, 10,000 feet above. And my recollection of Steve Taylor was, I thought he's going to have a better career than Turner Gill. That was the expectation outside of Nebraska. Just because I remember Steve being drafted in baseball. And I thought, okay, there are too many correlating paths between Steve Taylor and Turner Gill.
Definitely.
Where do you place Steve Taylor amongst all-time Nebraska quarterbacks? Where do you put him?
I would have him in my top 5.
Right?
Definitely my top 5.
Right?
Because you got Tommy at 1, which in my opinion, Tommy is the greatest quarterback in the history of college football. And I'll sit and argue that point all day long with people. So I got Tommy at 1 as the greatest Nebraska quarterback. Oh, gosh. It's funny, we always talk about the greatest running backs in history, but the greatest quarterbacks, I've never really sat down and thought about it. Probably Tommy at 1, Turner at 2. Oh,
I had Taylor at 3. And I said this to somebody the other day because they wanted to put Brooke there. And I thought, yes and no. That I thought when Steve ended his career, he led in rushing attempts by a quarterback over the career, rushing net yards gained by a quarterback in a single game, most rushing net yards gained by a quarterback in a career. And that's all up until 1988. Right?
And he had an absolute cannon for an arm.
Yeah.
He could sit flat-footed, and I guarantee you he'd throw the ball 65, 70 yards flat-footed. I mean, he he had that motion. It was, I mean, he wouldn't even step into throws sometimes. And I mean, that ball would just pop off his hand. He had an amazing arm. That's for sure.
Yeah. I remembered being in the circle of folks who would talk about the multiple sport athletes. And we kept thinking that was a time where quarterbacks across America were playing multiple sports, and a lot of them had baseball opportunities and had to make a decision on whether they were going to do one or the other. And we would argue that, like, Steve would have had a much better baseball career than he had in football, even going, Canadian Football League. So, okay, so give me your top 5 in quarterbacks all time. Give me that top 5. We'll go to break.
All right, so we got Tommy at 1, Turner at 2. I'll put Steve at 3.
Okay.
Oh, this is where I get in trouble with people because
look, nobody's going to agree on the top 5.
So you probably got to look at Jerry Taggy at 4. I mean, 2 national titles.
Taggy was a stud. Jerry Taggy was a stud.
Yep. And he put in, years at Green Bay. So I'd go Jerry Taggy at 4. 5. You could say Crouch, but Crouch to me he was a football player, but you could go Crouch at 5. Like Brooke, I loved Brooke. I knew Brooke. I worked out with him when he was getting ready to go to the NFL. Brooke was a great guy, great teammate. And he had the abilities that he was going to be, that he would play in the NFL. I thought he'd probably be a backup quarterback in the NFL, and he would have done it for a long time. But as like top 5, like if you just look at Nebraska, like just playing at Nebraska, I don't know if you put him in the top 5. When it comes to teammate, person, stuff like that, definitely probably number 1. But I don't know if I would if you'd throw him in the top 5, because there's been. So yeah, 5's kind of a toss up for me.
Well, you're as I would tell Tom Stevens, you're absolutely right, and you're probably wrong. Yep. No matter what 5 you put into place, it's all there. But this is the discussion, and I think you can talk to 100 Husker football fans, fanatics, and none of them are going to have the same 5 at quarterback. And that's kind of why I wanted to have the discussion, was just to go through it, how you remember things versus how you remember them when you find out. If you put the stats of Steve Taylor and Eric Crouch together, you'd have an interesting conversation. That's all I'm saying. You got it.
Well, you've got that same issue with the quarterbacks that have played in the current times. I mean, you could make a case for Zach Taylor or Joe Gans to be that number 5. I mean, they put up some great statistics, and Joe Gans, I mean, I think if he would have got a couple years to start, things might have been a lot different for Nebraska. I mean, he was a heck of a player.
It's Raph, can you hang on?
You betcha.
All right, we're going to go to break. We'll continue the quarterback conversation here on One on One.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store. You're listening to One on One with DP on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
The weather in Nebraska is unpredictable every day, and that's no fun when you're trying to golf. Double Eagle Golf in West Lincoln is now open to let you play in perfect indoor conditions daily. Double Eagle Golf has 5 simulator bays to hit in, by far the most in Lincoln, and has a fully stocked while you play. Double Eagle Golf is open each weekday from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., so you can start the day there, take a client over lunch, or end the night with friends. Check out Double Eagle Golf today inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Shopping for insurance can be a tedious and frustrating task, but the agents at Brokers Insurance Agency will do the work for you. They have partnered with over 20 of the best insurance carriers in the nation, which allows them to do the shopping all for you. Whether you're looking for business insurance or employee benefits for your company, or you're looking to save money on your home and auto insurance, Brokers Insurance Agency has the agents and solutions to help meet your goals. Call 402-420-5353 or email staff@brokersinsurancenE.com.
Happy Hour with Nick Sainert and Enrique Alvarez Clary.
The problem is when NIL was first instated, the NCAA was just like, okay, well, we're taking a step back. Go ahead, do it. You guys handle everything you want, universities, and feel free to deal with this as you see fit.
In my opinion, when you insert that word contract and you have an agent, that's when it becomes more professional-like and less about a college athlete making some money off of their name, image, and likeness.
Weekdays from 2 to 3 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Spring has arrived. Dust off your clubs and play the city. Lincoln City Golf Courses offer 5 different places to play, including Holmes, Pioneers, Highlands, Mahoney, and the Par 3 Jim Ager course. Plus, one membership gets you access to all 5 courses, or ask about a discount card that gets you 15% off all rounds. There's also adult classes with lessons for every level with Lincoln City Golf Academy. Learn more about membership and classes today at lincolncitygolf.org.
Spring is here. Are you giving your yard the best chance at being healthy and green? Call Penner Sprinkler and Lawn to get your sprinklers ready to go for the season if they haven't been working properly. They're also scheduling installs for new sprinkler systems if you don't have one, so make sure you contact them early to get a bid as soon as possible. Plus, they're your one place to go for 5-step fertilizer and pesticide application and lawn aeration. Call Penner Sprinkler and Lawn today at 402-413-1215.
You know you want that smoky, tangy, sweet, and spicy sauced and tossed Wingstop. But you just brought a haul of groceries home from the store. It's cool. No one expects you to shop and cook in the same day. So let the flavor experts at Wingstop hook you up with mouth-watering wings, crispy tenders and thighs, fries and sides delivered to your door. You can always cook tomorrow. That's why the fridge was invented. Get it delivered at wingstop.com.
Order online now from the new Wingstop located at 5001 O Street.
The weather in Nebraska is unpredictable every day, and that's no fun when you're trying to golf. Double Eagle Golf in West Lincoln is now open to let you play in perfect indoor conditions daily. Double Eagle Golf has 5 simulator bays to hit in, by far the most in Lincoln. It has a fully stocked bar with beers and cocktails for you to enjoy while you play. Double Eagle Golf is open each weekday from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., so you can start the day there, take a client over lunch, or end the night with friends. Check out Double Eagle Golf today inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street.
Please enjoy these next few moments of relaxation from Scott and Greg at Mendoza Family Insurance. If you would like to feel this relaxed about your home, auto, business, life, or commercial property insurance, please give Scott or Greg a call today at Mendoza Family Insurance.
You're listening to One on One with DP, brought to you by Beatrice Bakery on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. One-on-one on a Wednesday. Thank you guys for hanging out. 424-645-685. You guys were right on the text line. So to be clear, and I want to thank Chris Raff for doing this, and we'll bring him back in. But I want to remember the reason why I wanted to have the discussion is just to remember. It's how you remember it is one way. Then going back and revisiting allows you with new eyes to go through this thing, right? That, yes, Eric Crouch is a Heisman Trophy winner. Heisman Trophy winner. But to a person, so far, I haven't had anybody tell me that Eric Crouch was a better quarterback than Tommy Frazier. And if you can say that, well, Crouch won the Heisman, Tommy didn't win the Heisman, but Tommy was a better quarterback, then you can also say that there are other quarterbacks who are better than Eric Crouch, even though they did not win a Heisman Trophy. You can't have it both ways. How do you want it? Your definition is it winning national championships? Is it winning the Player of the Year award for that year? Being the best player that year doesn't mean that you were the best player to play that position ever at Nebraska. Right? I mean, there are people that'll have the discussion and say, well, geez, Mike Rozier won the Heisman, but was he a better talent than Lawrence Phillips? Right. So the conversation needs to be had. That's why we want to do it. Raph, let me bring you back in. So am I wrong in saying that just because you won the Heisman doesn't mean you were the best at that position forever and eternity?
Yeah, I think you're correct. The way you explained it, I think is perfect. I mean, like Mike Rozier, Heisman Trophy winner, amazing eye back, but you probably ask 85-90% of the people out there, Lawrence Phillips was probably the best eye back at Nebraska. But you're also going to have people there. This is why it's amazing conversation, because you're going to have people out there that say Amon Green was the best eye back ever at Nebraska. So that's what makes sports talk awesome, because everybody has their opinions, and that's what's. So yeah,
tomorrow will be running backs. So we're going to go through running backs, and it'll be a different conversation with fullbacks, and it'll be a different conversation with receivers or defensive linemen, members of the pipeline, and how you would break this down. This summer for me is going to be a summer of educating and re-educating myself on the history of Nebraska athletics, specifically football, so that you can go through and learn more about it. Like it revisits the successful, the high points, how they got there, why they got there, who took them there, who kept them there, and then who ultimately removed them from that space. You have to go through and look at each of these things. And anybody that tells me you look at Steve Taylor playing quarterback and you look at Eric Crouch playing quarterback, Crouch was a football player playing quarterback. Steve Taylor was an athlete playing quarterback. They approached it differently, had different successes. But Rico, let me ask you.
Hello.
Stats. Steve Taylor, what do you have?
Give me 1 second. I'm marking these so I know exactly who is who. I got yelled at for stats before.
Well, but it's just look, facts are facts, and then your opinion on the facts is something entirely different.
So Steve Taylor, his totals. Do you want totals?
Yes.
Okay, totals. Yeah. Rushing, he finished his career with 2,125 yards, 32 touchdowns. Passing wise, he finished with 2,815 on 45%, 30 touchdowns, 24 picks.
Okay.
That's Steve Taylor.
Right.
In his 3 seasons as a starter, 1 season coming in
a
little bit here and there.
Got it.
Eric Crouch, rushing wise, finished his career 3,434 rushing yards and 59 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Passing wise, 4,481 on 51% passing, 29 touchdowns, 25 picks.
Right. So they're close.
Extremely close.
They're
he has
close.
more. He has more passing yards because that's
AD
what you need.
AD is on the text line. He says, "Don't sleep on Keith and McCann." We haven't gotten there yet.
We haven't got there, AD. Come on now.
Chill.
We haven't gotten there yet. And I'm gonna call Steve Taylor and ask him his opinion. Like, where would he put himself? Of course, he might say number 1, but that I wouldn't be surprised by that either.
But that's what makes Steve so great, though. I think I think that's what makes the great quarterbacks that great is they are to them, they are the number 1, and that makes them those alpha dogs. Steve's going to tell you, he was one of the best in Nebraska history, and that's that attitude you got to come in with. If you have that attitude that you're the best, that's that mentality you need to be a successful quarterback at Nebraska. You've got to have that mentality.
So we have some more stats.
Hold on. Let me say, Mike, we're going to get to you, bro. We were going to ask you to call at right in the last segment. So we want to take your call at the last segment. So if you don't mind, call back right at like 10:50,
something like that.
Right, and we'll take you in the last segment.
I have some more passing stats for.
Go ahead, give me
between Taylor and
give me
Crouch. So Steve Taylor attempted 202 less pass attempts, and if you're going with yards per average and air yards per average,
say it.
Steve Taylor yards per average 7, air yards per average 5.8.
Okay.
Eric Crouch 7.4 per average, 6.5 air yards per average.
Yeah.
So extremely close. The only difference is Steve Taylor had 202 less attempts and 2,000 yards less about.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
you go, 202 more attempts, you get 1,000 yards, 2,000 yards in there. Like that's completely doable.
Like
because the
it's
air
not
yards and the yards
easy.
per average are extremely similar.
It's not easy.
And he actually had one more passing touchdown and one less interception on 202 less attempts.
Here's one for you. Here's one for you, Raph. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. So this quarterback took over in 1989, threw for 1,000 yards, threw for more than 1,000 yards, accounted for 31 touchdowns, and the Huskers went 10-2 and went to the Fiesta Bowl. Who am I talking about?
I'm going to go with Jerry Godowski.
You are correct, sir. So, again, as we dance through this thing, the program and the culture operated in such a unique and high-level space that 9 and 10 wins was the norm. It was the norm. Even before, like, you get into the space where you get comfortable.
Jerry had a great year that year, too. He that's probably one of the bigger regrets in Nebraska history, probably, is wishing that he would have had one more year.
Yeah.
He played great that one year. He was the starter.
After that, Eighties boy, Keith McCann,
number 10.
1990, rushed for over 600, passed for over 1,400, 13 touchdowns. Athletically unique. Fair?
Correct. He was I'd probably put him up there as one of the top passing quarterbacks that Nebraska has ever. I mean, he was a little bit different than what we had been the prior years. We were more run, more option. That year, it seemed like he was more of a drop back passer than what we had seen. Him and Steve were a lot alike throwing the ball, I guess. Actually, they kind of have the same mechanics too.
Great trivia question that I got stumped on a couple of months ago, and I can ask it to everybody. And don't cheat, people. Rico, let me know if you have an answer. Who was the last starting quarterback before Tommy Frazier?
I have the answer because I've been looking all these up. Because you guys are going 1980s, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know these names. I was like, I know Turner Gill is the coach at Buffalo and Kansas, and I've heard of some of these other guys, but no, I have the answer, but it's cheating, so I won't say.
Yeah, Raph, come on, brother.
I'll tell you one thing about this quarterback that we're talking about. He came in highly, highly, highly recruited. When we got him, we thought, now this is what we need. He wore number 1. He was on a trajectory to be one of the all-time greats, but I think he had hurt his shoulder, and that kind of hampered him. So, but did anybody answer that trivia question yet? Or
we'll let Rico answer.
Give it away?
You want me to answer it? Because I also have a fun stat on it.
Go ahead, Rico.
The quarterback that we are all wondering is Mike Grant.
Yes.
And to open up the 1990 season, he threw for 86 yards in a 13-0 win over Baylor.
Didn't throw much. Ran it quite a bit. And Raph, we were laughing during the break because you can go through the historic annals of Nebraska football quarterback play, and they'll go through each year, right? And then they just get to 90. They get to like 94, 95, and they just go. You guys know who was there.
So So I'm looking through the Lincoln Journal Stars. Like they have something from before Adrian took over as a starter, and it's just all the quarterbacks that started since 1980. It gets to 1990 and 1992 Mike Grant, and then it just skips 94, 95. 93, 94, 95, and then goes 96, 97, Scott Frost.
Yeah.
It's like, you know who it was.
Yeah, you know who it was.
We don't need to put a picture.
Well, was there anybody between Tommy and Crouch who were missing?
Well, actually, going back for a second, there actually was going to possibly be a quarterback before Tommy. A lot of people, some know, but Tony Veland, that's in spring ball or in fall ball, had actually ascended to the number 1 spot, and then he broke his collarbone. But
how many times didn't that happen like every year at Nebraska for almost 15 years, where a guy who was a quarterback in high school, you can bring up Mickey Joseph, you can bring up Damon Bennett, you can bring up a lot of players who ended up starring on defense, who were actual high school quarterbacks and had to move over.
Yeah, there'd been some. You had Tony. Oh man! Usually they always kind of went over to that safety position where they.
Yeah. It just seems, Raph. It just seems, like I said, the beauty of this thing was to regenerate thought and memory on it, and the conversations being had. I mean, guys like Jamal Lord, for me, got lost. Joe Daly got lost, right? I mean,
yeah.
In that,
Joe just got caught. Joe just got transition. He was recruited for the Frank Solich option play action offense, and the next thing you know, he's running pro style 5 wide, and he just kind of got caught in the transition, because I think he would have, under Solich, I think he would have been probably right up there. You could probably put him in the top 10 if. Yeah. I would have liked to have seen him another year in Solich's offense. That's for sure.
Before we close out the segment again, Mike, we'll get to you on the Honda Lincoln Hotline coming up next. But then we'll close it out with this: Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, over 5,800 yards passing. Oh, yay! Super Bowl coach. That's where we'll finish up. The Zach Taylor. As you go through Nebraska's quarterbacking history, it's far more glamorous in the space and the vacuum of college football, but it loses some of the luster when it comes to advancing past the NFL. That's a conversation for another time and another day. But this was educational for me, and this is why I want to have these conversations. Raph, man, appreciate you, brother. What are you doing tonight? What are you guys doing?
Tonight we have got a really good show lined up. We've got Miss Burley Goins. She's the head of the Boys and Girls Club here in Lincoln.
Wonderful.
And then we're going to have Kenny Cheatham on, and he played receiver for the Huskers back in the mid to late 90s. So we'll have both of them on the riffing with Raph and AD tonight. So we're looking forward to that, as always.
Appreciate you, brother, and what you do each night, every day. AD just said Clester Johnson was also a high school quarterback that ended up getting moved. That's just college football, but specifically Nebraska. Pretty exceptional in moving those folks around. Raph, appreciate you, brother. Do what you do. I'll listen to you check in tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good day, you guys.
You can catch them 7 to 9 o'clock Wednesday nights with Aaron Davis, riffing with Raph and Davis here on 93.7 The Ticket. We go to break. Mike, we'll get to you, brother. We appreciate you hanging on. We'll close out one-on-one and hand it over to Rashawn and the Captain Show down at Wingstop.
Watch live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. You're listening to One-on-One with DP on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
They say one great thing leads to another, and that's especially true when you visit a Great Clips salon. When you sit down for a haircut with the skilled and friendly stylist at one of our thousands of convenient Great Clips locations, they'll not only make your hair look great, they'll make you feel great too. And that's something you can't help but share with the world. Download our online check-in app today and opt in to get a ready next text when you're up next. Great Clips. It's gonna be great.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Hey, it's Nelson. Isn't it a great feeling when a company has your budget in mind instead of trying to squeeze it all out of you? That's why Caterpillar Vapes has been voted a fan favorite among premium e-juice, CBD, and Delta-8 customers year after year. And now they're here in Lincoln. Returning customers are always enjoying weekly deals and perks, and new Caterpillar Vapes customers get 50% off their entire first purchase. A company that cares about their customers. Crazy, right?
In a hurry? Try the drive-thru. Caterpillar Vapes, 2601 North 11th Street and online at caterpillarvapes.com.
Hey, it's Nicklin Hames from Nebraska Volleyball. I hate wasting time in practice, and I want to help you stop wasting your time when you're looking for an electrician. High Electric has been serving the area for over 30 years for both residential and commercial properties. They are experts in everything like remodeling, new additions, hot tub installation, and more. And they take jobs from Beatrice to Omaha and all towns, big or small, in between. Call them today at 402-466-6606 or learn more at high-electric.com.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and it's been a great start here to the year as 2022 new inventory continues to roll in. Our pre-owned lot remains full, and we are selling at a record pace. I was just down at Koppel talking about a new order for myself, and they let me know I can actually start ordering a 2023 here later this spring. So stop on in to get your new 2022, your pre-owned vehicle, or maybe talk about ordering here for 2023. Check them out online at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Spring is here. Are you giving your yard the best chance at being healthy and green? Call Penner Sprinkler and Lawn to get your sprinklers ready to go for the season if they haven't been working properly. They're also scheduling installs for new sprinkler systems if you don't have one. So make sure you contact them early to get a bid as soon as possible. Plus, they're your one place to go for 5-step fertilizer and pesticide application and lawn aeration. Call Penner Sprinkler and Lawn today at 402-413-1215.
You're listening to One-on-One with DP on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
I'm so mad I didn't turn the camera on for that. You guys just missed the weirdest dance.
You can play it over. And,
the camera wasn't on. I had the commercial up. I'm so pissed. Damn it.
Every now and then I'll hit Rico with, hey, guess what?
I'm never ready for those things.
You're never, how can you not be ready for the things that I say during break?
Well, because most of the time when you're saying things during break, I have to make sure the mics are off.
Right.
That's what I have to be sure of. I can't worry about the camera. It's the mics that are the important part. Especially when you and Jay are in here.
Oh, it's like,
every once in a while, you know, the few times that I have to cover for Nick on Vershawn show, got to make sure the mics are off.
Right.
You guys are wild. You old folks.
Well, we're gonna. I'm telling you, at some point in the next calendar year, we're gonna launch ticket content like off-air content,
off-air podcasts,
and you're gonna have to pay for it because it will protect us from the FCC.
Yeah.
It'll protect us from the FCC. So you as a part of the waiver is that you can't share any of it.
Is there a way to make it like unshareable?
You could listen to it, but you cannot share it. Well, because if you share it, then you're trackable, and then I will see you in court.
Yeah, it'll be part of the thing when you pay for the content. There's a little contract thing you have to agree to. You cannot share this.
It's the stuff that Vershawn and Jay and Sipple and Strick say off air that help tie a story together. Right?
They're golden.
And it's just great bridges to everything good. Right? So I think that would be the space. Yeah, YouTube paid content is a thing. I think that, but it'll be like kind of a VIP ticket VIP club.
Mm-hmm.
Where you
ticket table talk.
Yeah. Like, and it's not for everybody.
Take that,
like,
Jada.
It's like this is Nebraska sports talk, not for everybody.
Yeah. NSFW.
Yeah, we'll do that. Let's go to Hunter Liggett Highlight. He's been waiting. He'll close out the show for us. Mike, what's up, man? Thank you for being patient. What's up?
Yeah, hey, I hope I'm not being redundant. I called a little after 10, and I couldn't hear anything since.
That's okay.
Been on hold almost an hour, but I had called in. I wanted to add a little bit to that early stuff when you guys had questions.
Yeah.
Chip Quinn was the first Nebraska option quarterback.
Yeah.
Tom Osborne switched in 79 to an option offense. Before that, Nebraska habitually led the Big Eight in in passing yardage. You had Dave Hum, 72 to 74, Ferragamo a couple years after that, and then I think Hager and Randy Garcia. And he felt that was a better way to try and beat Oklahoma. In fact, a little side note that no one ever talks about, Tom Osborne basically invented the run and shoot. They didn't call it that, but when he was offensive coordinator for Bob Devaney, in 71 and 72, he ran a lot of one-back sets with 4 wides, which was unheard of in college. When Johnny Rodgers retired or graduated in 72, he led Nebraska in total receptions, but number 2 was Jeff Kinney, the I-back. So they were doing stuff no one was doing in the early 70s. Anyway, I was going to school in 81, and you guys are kind of talking about the 81. And it started off, the 2 returners were Nate Mason and Mark Maurer, and they were getting most of the run. They were the veteran guys. Turner Gill played on the freshman team and did very well, but he wasn't getting a lot of run. And we lost to Iowa, played horribly. Then I think we beat Florida State pretty handily. Didn't play well against Penn State, but came back, but lost by 6. So we're 1-2 playing Auburn at halftime. And we're down 3-0, and they got booed off the field. And Turner Gill hadn't seen the field yet. And he started the second half. We came back and won, I believe, 17-3. The next week, and he is the only personnel change, was Turner Gill instead of the other 2 quarterbacks. And we set a Big 8 total offense record. It was just that dramatic, that immediate. He started the rest of the year, hurt his foot. And I don't remember what part, but there was concern he'd ever play football again. Maurer did come back, beat Oklahoma 37-14 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost the Orange Bowl 22-15 to Clemson because Gill wasn't playing. And there's no doubt in my mind we beat them if he's playing. He was more than a touchdown difference. We'd won a national title then. Turner Gill came within really 1 or 2 horrible calls against Penn State and about a 6-inch difference in a pass against Miami from being he was 24-2. He came very close to being undefeated as a Husker quarterback.
Mike,
just wanted to add that. Thanks a lot.
Mike, please call again. That's amazing content. Thank you very much for what you just did. We will pass it along over to Rashawn Jackson. Wingstop. He's got a full day. I'm going to drop off a jersey for him to offer. Whoever can do the most push-ups in the next couple of hours.
Well, Rashawn has to do 100.
He has to do 100, but whatever listener does the most push-ups will walk away with a signed Huskers jersey today.
Ooh.
But he has to do them down at Wingstop.
How many do you think takes the jersey?
60.
I think I'm going to go lower. I'm going to go 47.
I would go lower, except for I saw that dude last week
Bryce?
pop out 50.
Yeah.
He popped out 50.
Bryce is built different. If Bryce shows up, the number goes up. If Bryce doesn't show up, I'm going 47.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll do that. Captain Show up next here, 93.7 The Ticket.